Good morning, guys. I hope you're doing really well this morning. I hope you are really spending time with your family, doing the important things, making sure you're spending time with God. As much as I know you don't like to do it, making sure you're getting your schoolwork done, it is important. We've got lots of time on our hands now, so we must make sure that we are using it wisely. So today we are going to be starting with the storms series. We know that there are a lot of storms that are spoken about in the Bible. And we want to really go in depth and really see what God is doing in and around those storms, and why we should really listen when there's a storm happening. So there's a video before this. If you haven't seen it, quickly pause here and go watch that. And I want to just make a quick disclaimer. Make sure you don't do what they do in the video. Not only will your parents kill you for destroying the microwave, it is probably pretty dangerous, so don't try that at home. Okay, so today we are talking about probably the first big storm. It's probably the biggest of them all. So this was Noah and the flood. And so let's read from Genesis chapter 6, verse 9 to 14. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become. All the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I'm surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. And then God goes on to give him pretty specific details on how to build the rest of the ark. So just imagine for a moment you are now in Noah's shoes, and you've just been told that besides you and your family, he's going to wipe out all life on earth. Okay, and you have to build a boat, and he's going to send some animals to you, and that's it. That's all that's going to survive. That's pretty big, and like no pressure, shame. So now imagine the hugeness of that conversation. Okay, he's just been chosen by God, handpicked by God to survive this, and then you have to go and build the thing. Okay, so you spend the next couple of years, probably more than just a few years, building this thing. Okay. Spending day in, day out, working wood, making sure that this boat isn't just going to sink when you put it when the water starts rising. And Noah is faithful, and so that's my first point. Noah was faithful through this, and not just the storm itself, but through all of it. So he could have easily said, just make up a bunch of excuses. Oh, I'm too old, I'm too tired, I don't know how to build a boat. But no, he doesn't. He's faithful. He keeps on building. And then finally, when the ark is finished, Noah is still faithful. I can't imagine that a flood that covered the entire earth was a pleasant experience for the people on the ark and for the animals. I'm sure it wasn't just a nice cruise, like a weekend getaway. No, they spent months and months and months on raging, stormy seas that covered the entire earth. I can't imagine the kind of waves they must have experienced. I'm sure there were times when Noah was on his knees with his family praying that the ark would hold together, because he wasn't a boat builder. He was a farmer. Their family didn't build boats. But they were faithful. They knew that no matter how bad it got, no matter what happened in that storm, God would be with them. So there's a quote somewhere, I can't remember who said it, but the Titanic was this huge, awesome ship built by the best engineers of the day, and it was unsinkable, and it sank. And the ark was built by amateurs. Take what you will from that. So now, in comparison with the rest of the time that Noah spent building the ark, the time actually in the flood was quite short. They'd spent many years building this boat, and they probably managed the flood pretty okay. I'm sure it wasn't comfortable, but they managed. It was possible. God had been spending the time that they were building the boat, getting them ready. And by the time it was finished, then he said, okay, now you guys are ready. Here we go. Hang on. God was not just building a boat through Noah. Although, that was probably important. But he was also building a man. He was building Noah into the man that God wanted him to be. And if it's 600 years old, Noah can still be learning things about himself, about God, about life, then I'm sure we all have a long, long way to go. We've got a whole lot more to learn. So try to look back in your own life when God is preparing something, preparing you for something. You may not have even noticed it at the time, but looking back, you might be able to see it even better. I'm 27, nowhere near 600. Sometimes, some days I think, I know quite a lot, I know a fair amount, and then God reminds me that I still have a long, long way to go. We all do, because we will never stop learning in this life. And when we think that we've arrived, that there's nothing else we can learn, we've learned everything, I'm sure God will humble us and show us just how wrong we are and how much there is left to learn. So I've asked my fiancée Yana to give us an example of where God was preparing her for something that was coming in her life.
Hey guys, I'm Yana. As you know, I'm JB's fiance. So today I want to tell you my story of a storm that I've experienced in my life. So I have always had this calling to one day go to the Netherlands. And I was raised that if there's something that you want to do, you have to pray about it. And as I was growing up, I think it was like since grade 9, I've always known that I want to go. I need to go out. I need to go and do something. I don't know what I have to do, but I have to go and do something. And I had all these plans. I was going to study psychology, along with a bit of theology, so that I can do pastoral care. And the plans were going and going and going. And then I got to my first year of varsity. And I took psychology. And I failed psychology. It was just something that I just couldn't do. So there was something that I started experiencing of my plans is not always working as I would like them to. Because as JP would tell you, I'm a little bit, like tiny bit of a control freak. Just like tiny bit. So when my plans don't work out the way that I have planned them, then I start to freak out. And my studies have changed so much. My plans for my future and a lot of different things in my life has changed so much in the last 6 years that every time there's a change in my plans, I start to freak out less and start to pray more and trust more. And at this moment where we are currently in our life, JP and I have been discussing to be going to move overseas, to move to a new country, to start a new life. And we were planning on going in the new year in 2021, but Corona is not just setting South Africa back, but the rest of the world. And it's so amazing that God has prepared me so much for this change in my life that we are currently sitting and we are planning and discussing our lives ahead. And I'm not stressing. I'm not worried because I've finally came to a point in my life where I say, okay, my plans are not going to work out, but God's plans will work out. And that is the important thing to remember for me, it is important for me to remember that whatever may happen, good, the bad, God has a bigger plan. And so my storm was constant change, and I'm sitting in constant change where I don't know what's going to happen in my life, in our lives, but God has calmed the storm within me, and I am ready for whatever may hit us. So yeah, have a good day, guys.
So my second point is that God was faithful through the storm. I'm going to read from Genesis 7 verse 1. The Lord then said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation." No. Noah found favor with God, and God was faithful to Noah. God could easily have said, that's it. I'm starting fresh. Everyone, not even one person is going to survive. But Noah had been righteous. Noah had been making sure that he was right with God his whole life. And so him and his family was spared. And at the end, we know that God made a vow and signed it with a rainbow, so that we could all know that the world will not have another flood like this, that we will never see that again. No matter the circumstances, if God has made a promise, he will fulfill it. And we can see that made clear in all the times when God has come through for people in the Bible. Even today, God is still faithful, and on that we can count. I've seen so many times when God has come through for me when I thought, that's it, it's done, it's over. And then God comes through every single time. We sing the song Waymaker, and the song says he's the Waymaker, the miracle worker, the promise keeper, the light in the darkness. We sing that to give him the praise that he so truly deserves, but we also sing it to remind ourselves, because sometimes we forget, just who God is. So my third point is actually a question. Will we be faithful? Will we keep up the prayer? Will we keep on reading God's word, pushing, seeking more of God and a better understanding? Are we going to go and faithfully cut out the things that we know are not of God, and that keep us from Him, distract us from Him? Whether it be a little white lie, whether it be an angry word said to someone, whether it be something really big. Are we going to start making moves to cut that stuff out of our lives? Will we trust Him? Trust that He has our best interests at heart, even when we don't see it? And will we follow what He says? No matter the storm He is leading us through. Take a moment now, guys. Think about the storms that you've been through. What are the storms that you've been through? Maybe it's the one that we're going through right now. It says at the beginning of this passage that Noah was a righteous man and that he followed the ways of God. Put it this way. When everything else on earth had convinced God that he should just start fresh, start all over, just wipe everything out, Noah's faithfulness, Noah's righteousness convinced God that he was worthy of being saved. That's pretty hectic. Him and his family. God didn't take Noah out of that storm. He needed to take Noah through the storm. And as strange as it sounded, Noah getting this message from God saying that he had to build a boat. Strange as that was, Noah was still obedient and he was still faithful. I want you to think of a time where you may not have realized it, but God was preparing you for something. He was doing a work in your heart. Think back. I'm sure you can find one. He was getting you ready for something. And I know in my heart, if I look back, there's more than just a few times where God was putting me through something to teach me, to grow me, to strengthen me for something that was going to come. I would never have guessed it. So yeah, let's close in prayer. Jesus, we want to just take a moment and just thank you, Lord. We remember last week how it was the Holy Week, and we thank you for everything you did for us on the cross again. We also want to just think a little bit differently about the storms that we go through. And Lord, we know that as difficult as it is, we need to use this time to try and do something good. And Lord, may you please use us in whatever way you see fit. If we need to build a boat, tell us, Lord. Help us to be faithful and obedient and to listen to you. Give us faithfulness through this storm. As we pray in your precious name. Amen. Thanks, guys. Have a great day, and we'll chat a bit later. Thanks.